not a big deal. Let's all deal with it together.
How much grace do you show for mistakes or, the same mistakes being made?
They don't, well, a lot of grace.
Right? Like I'm all for failure, right?
Yeah.
But like after a certain point, it's just like, why are we making the same mistakes
Sure.
over and over?
Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't become a huge issue.
Okay.
You have accidentally embezzled money from us multiple times.
I have. This is why. This is
why
why I didn't
do
want to
the
be a business
finances now.
Eva, Alexis.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I usually recently have been starting with some type of reading that I found, whether it's a poem or something like that, or a quote. It's not exactly a quote, but it's a caption from one of your recent posts.
Ooh. See who wrote it.
I think it's when you started to promote the Howdy Y'all Disco Ball.
Okay.
All right. And to give people context, we didn't get too much time to say hi to each other, but we met like during the recordings of the Terms of Service podcast, what felt like not too long ago, but like kind of long ago. And then, stumbled upon more of your work and how much good work you guys have been doing. And then I usually hesitate to ask, but you guys also wanted to come on. I was like, yes, let's do something together. So as I was doing what Nariba would call research, I stumbled upon this caption. Right. It's been 6 years since I quit working in event production, my first big love, and the career I could easily see myself committing to for much longer than the 8 years that I did. These last few months have been an exercise in reactivating skills and practices that used to be second nature. Some have come back easily, most have needed coaxing, and often I've been reminded why I chose to walk away. Secretly, I've been looking for answers. Why did I love this work so much? Why did I keep doing it after I stopped loving it? And can I love it again? But this morning, as I sat down to work, I felt something that I haven't felt in a long time. The feeling deep in my gut that happens when loose ends are not tied. Contracts still need to be finalized. Menus still need to be planned. Time is running out. And I just know, with almost delusional assurance, that this event is going to be spectacular. I can identify that feeling now. It's pride. And it was my pride that kept me clinging to a career path that wasn't serving me. But pride is also at the heart of the Howdy Y'all Disco Ball. Pride for our community, pride for our work, pride for how far we've come, and pride for where we are about to go together. And this time, when I sit with that feeling, it feels authentic and sustainable, and I hope that you will join us on June 3rd because you deserve to feel this way too. We are so very proud of you.
That's an Eve.
Me.
That is definitely an Eve.
That wasn't you?
No.
So the Howdy Y'all Disco Ball recently occurred. I'm so sorry I missed it.
That's okay.
But how did it pan out? How did everything go with it?
It was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was really
great.
good. Yeah, we had a great turnout. We got to work with some amazing people. I think that was my favorite part, was like the performers, the vendors, our presenting sponsor. Everybody felt like their work is really aligned with our work, and their idea of community is aligned with our idea of community. And so it felt like we were making something really special together that was beyond just this brick and mortar that we want to open, but that is also part of that.
Yeah. And so to bring even more context, you guys are a pandemic success story. You're about 147 weeks into Funeral Potatoes. And you're on this path to creating a brick and mortar as well. Mm-hmm. How close are we to that path?
I think it's a little bit of a nebulous finish line.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Hopefully less than a year away, but we're not the most time-centric business. Things kind of move and ebb and flow, and we get really busy, and then we're like, cool, that goal's going to get pushed a couple months because this
Priorities
new thing popped up.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Which is kind of nice because it doesn't feel like we're trying to open this brick and mortar to like survive, or like we need to accomplish this to feel good about ourselves, or like we're a success or anything. It's like, it feels refreshing to be doing this because we just want to. And so we're not
desperate.
We're not desperate. We know it's going to be a really long, hard process, and so we're trying to like take it slow. And we don't really have to try because we just always do
to be in
that.
that position. No, it's
slow.
nice to be in that position.
Yeah.
Take us back to how you guys first met. Were you guys friends? I know there was an underground dinner party called Dinner at the Grotto. I saw pictures from Alan, who was What Was for Breakfast, like snapping some photos at some events. So can you like take us back to how long ago was that, and how did that come to be?
We met 7 years ago.
7 or 8
7
years
or
ago?
8 years ago. We were coworkers at a chocolate shop.
Is that actually chocolate, or was it the ice cream chocolate shop? Because there's an ice cream parlor called Chocolate Shop as well.
No, it was
a confectionery.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Alexis was the market manager, and I was working in the cafe.
Okay.
And Alexis was starting a catering company called Black Cat Kitchen, and I was also doing Dinner at the Grotto. And we just became really good friends at that point.
And these projects independently were pre-pandemic or pandemic?
Pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Okay.
So like 2018, I think.
Yeah.
I was working part-time on my own business and full-time at the cafe that we both worked at, or the confectionery. And Eve had been doing Dinner at the Grotto for a long time before that. And then I left the job and she left the job within a couple of months, and we stayed friends and kept cooking together. We did a couple of Dinner at the Grottos together, and she would help me all the time with my thing. And then we both didn't have those things. It was like March of 2020, and we were both like, well, shit, she can't have 40 people in her apartment. All my catering jobs have canceled. We should figure out and she doesn't drive, and I had a van. So it was like, if you can make soup, we can deliver it together.
Complemented each other really well. Okay.
Yep, and we don't want to kill each other after cooking together, so that was a plus.
She's the only one.
Yeah, one of the few.
Yeah.
So what was the impetus to start Dinner at the Grotto? Because you went to Columbia.
Yeah, I went to Columbia. I wanted to hang out with people without leaving my apartment, so I just brought them there. I would it started out as just pancakes. It was like I think it was Sunday or Wednesday morning deal. People would just like bring mimosas and we would eat pancakes. And then I was working in film festival administration, and when I quit that, I had more free time and was like, I want to, I'm doing all this like cooking to try to process how I'm feeling about this career change, and I don't have anybody to eat all this food, so maybe I should just do a full menu instead of only pancakes.
Were you thinking about going back to school for cooking?
No, never.
But you wanted to cook.
But I wanted to cook.
Okay.
And I was cooking. I was just having like I was cooking to process the big life change that was happening, and then I was just finding myself with all of this food, and I'm a really social person, and I verbally process, and I really wanted to have a lot of people around, eating in my apartment. And then it just started snowballing. Like it was, there would be people I invited, and then they would invite friends. And then it became this like very queer kind of like underground alternative to, the nightlife scene.
Okay.
And it was really special. There were so many wonderful people who came from that. We did that for 6 years, and Alexis was a collaborator on some of the best dinners and the most well-attended dinners that we did.
What were some standouts? If
The
you
weed
remember?
one.
Yeah, we did an infused one.
Yeah.
That was a thing. There was a phase. Like a few people were doing infused dinners.
Because it became legal January of 2020,
Yeah.
so we did one January or
And
February of 2020.
I think it was January or February, and that was the last one that we last one or
The
second
last
to
one ever.
last one ever.
Yeah.
Like, and some of these were like kind of elevated experiences. Like they would hire a DJ for the night, or like
Not us.
Not this one.
like a quiet room with like no distractions or anything. If
that's
if
smart.
the weed was getting to you, and
That's very smart. Should have done that.
no quiet rooms at the Grotto.
are infused dinners still going on these days, or
Probably.
Probably. I'd like to go to
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
never been to one.
Yeah, there was definitely a high moment, and then there was like a Netflix series on just infused
Oh,
chefs.
yeah, I remember that.
Right.
Mhm.
I think one of them was from Chicago. But So then speak like a little bit more. We don't have to go. You dove into it on Joiners really well, but like kind of speak about the 6 years of some of the experiences that you gained from working that.
I mean, it was just such an incredible group of people. It was very eclectic. Like, you never knew who was going to show up. There's this guy who, he was like a millionaire who worked in internet security, and he would show up sometimes with a garbage bag full of bottles of champagne. And there would be a lot of artists and tradespeople and like this cross section of Chicago that I love so much. And that felt really meaningful and was giving me the sensation of like success and gratification that I wasn't finding in film festival administration. And I had no intention of taking that any further. I didn't want to own my own business.
With film, did you eventually want to get into the more active process of filmmaking and document?
I had I got my degree in documentary production at Columbia, and I had made a couple documentaries, got completely burnt out, and then switched to festival administration, which was a longer burn, but still a burnout too. Yeah.
What do you think would have diminished the level of burnout?
Well, I think we're both now learning a lot about how to avoid burnout. Being super protective of our downtime and treating that as like a serious part of our business model. We've created this
as we film a podcast on our day off.
I know, right?
You'll walk away rejuvenated.
Yeah. Well, it's we only cook one day a week. We're in the kitchen only on Wednesday. We are, we take our mental health seriously. We understand that we're humans. We love each other and we're friends, and we're able to work as a team and support each other in a way that, just working on your own and being by yourself and like,
yeah, you have each other.
We have each other.
We're also really generous with our earnings. Like we split everything that we make 50-50, but sometimes like Eve gets COVID and it's not like we could have paid sick days. It's not like we're at that point. So even if only one of us is working an event, we split the profits, which is a really nice like fallback. It has added a lot of security to what can be a really insecure and tumultuous career. Yeah.
And I guess to lay more context down, do either of you have like formal training with chefing and cooking? No,
we don't.
How deep in the restaurant industry or hospitality industry did you guys get besides the cafe?
As
for me, like a toe in.
Yeah, as little as possible.
Yeah, you were a CDC.
I was at a Hungarian cafe that was more of a coffee house than a restaurant, which was, I loved it. It was a great vibe.
And was there people around you or part of it that you detected that you're like, I don't want to go deeper in that industry?
I think do you have an answer? What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, my I don't talk about this very often, but my dad owns a couple of restaurants in a different city than here. And I've worked for him very sparingly when I was younger. And that made me feel like, well, I don't want to fucking work in restaurants.
Even for family.
Especially for that family, but yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, just the general. He's definitely got an old school kind of like there's a chef hierarchy, and I would rather people like fear and respect are on the same level for him, and I have no tolerance for that in my life.
That being said, like, is there value to having some type of structure or hierarchy while trying to cultivate equality as well? There's
a value to having leadership for sure, and like a leadership structure so that there's not too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody's in our kitchen, at least we value everybody's opinion. We ask for people's suggestions, but we are the ones making the final decisions, and we're the ones taking the biggest amount of risk. So I think everybody doesn't really care if we take their suggestion or don't take their suggestion. They're going to get paid the same amount. We're the ones that are potentially going to lose money. So I think that works fine, and I would like to think our staff feels very respected and valued, but we also are like really basic, like saying please and thank you in the kitchen. You know, we're not like giving out commands. We don't expect anybody to follow us just because we say so. And a lot of times they question the decisions that we make, and then we either like back it up or like, here's our reason, or like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let's talk about why you think this would be better. And a lot of times it is.
I think there's this, like growing up, I've always loved cooking, but I would watch these documentaries about chefs and see how glorified even outside of the restaurant world this like awful behavior and
like Gordon Ramsay.
You know, just like the treating people with disrespect, and then those people trying to attain that level of authority so that they can treat other people with disrespect, and that was just considered like normal. A symptom of creative genius or whatever. And I immediately, like from the time I was very young, I was like, I don't want to be a chef. I have no interest in being a chef. I can cook without being a chef. And like what Alexis was saying, you know, we have this, it's nice to have some structure so that everybody has clear expectations of what their job is, but we don't feel like we need to enforce our authority to get people to be the best they can be at work.
I think people work a lot harder for us and care a lot more about our mission, and like our staff regularly prioritizes working for us over working their like 9 to 5s. Wow. When we pay well, but we're like a 1 day a week thing. We're not anybody's full-time job, and I think it's because it doesn't suck to come work in the kitchen for us.
I hope not.
I think that makes a huge difference. Like, yeah, I don't want to go to work anywhere where morale is super low and everybody is a little bit afraid of us.
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when I ask people, like, what do you look for in new hires, I get responses around something like giving a shit. Mm-hmm. And how do you test that? It's hard to see that in an interview. And did you guys have a way to, unless that's not even something you're looking for? But
we've never done an interview.
Interviewed anybody.
So how at this point, how have you cultivated a team?
Instagram.
Yeah.
Hey, is anybody available to work Wednesday? And then we get like one person, and then they're like, hey, actually my roommate is also looking for a job. So we have 2 roommates. All of our staff lives on the same street as me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And they were all just like friends of people that worked for us 1 or 2 times.
And then like we have some, you know, auxiliary staff that comes in and helps with deliveries or markets or events or whatever. And they're also like
just people
friends of our current staff or people that we've met, or who have been recommended to us by people that we trust. Mm-hmm. And they have all been awesome. I think everybody.
We haven't hired anybody that I wouldn't hire again.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go back to this beginning of the pandemic. You guys lost your primary jobs and were, correct me if I'm wrong, driving somewhere and talking about what to do next.
I think I texted you. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. You were selling soup already before, and I was like, what if we did like a little bit bigger menu, and then instead of people coming to your house to pick it up, we can deliver.
Yeah, I
think
it was something like that. It was your idea to sell meal kits for like a little while until we could find other jobs.
Like a few weeks.
Yeah, we were thinking a few weeks.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up in this situation.
Have you guys been approached by like Schmeal, that app?
Yeah, actually, I think is that Craig Silver? I talked to him when they were first getting started. Yeah. We connected a little bit. And
I think that's his whole concept.
Yeah, it was very similar to that.
We were $8 home cooked meals.
Yeah, yeah. We've I haven't talked to him in a long time. Yeah.
And so how long did that go?
Up until now.
Yeah, we're still doing it. We've just formalized the process and refined it a lot.
So instead of DMs, it's like actually like you have a website and everything.
Yeah, we have a website. When we first started, Eve had I think our first week we did email, and then we're like, this is stupid. So Eve was texting every single person their invoice. She was like adding it up by hand. We just had a Google form, and that caused chaos a
It
little
was,
bit.
I don't know why we did that for so long. It was thousands of invoice texts.
Yeah.
And then we
Because
found
it was free.
It was
I
free,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we found
Yeah.
Bento Box, which is
Okay.
our ordering platform now, and they're
Okay.
awesome. And the
It's
sense
scary
of relief.
when someone has their hands in your, in your cookie jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not down the street, but 18th Street, they were on Terms of Service. Jackson Flores talked about like from Dish Roulette Kitchen, helped out like the people behind Ruby's on getting their POS set up, and they were like, I don't want anyone taking my money. But
Yeah.
this has allowed you and everyone else to grow and I guess implement systems.
And have less room for error. Yeah, and like make it easier to pay our taxes. Because the first year I was like, oh, I'm not even thinking about taxes. Like the world is crumbling around us. And then when tax time came after a year of just like loosey-goosey people Venmoing us money, it was like, oh shit, we should think about this next
maybe
time.
we should.
Yeah. Every year we've done a little bit less tax fraud than the year before. I think.
Yeah. Just a little.
Just a little.
Well, as a treat.
Yeah.
So, and how did the name Funeral Potatoes come to be?
That's the one. That's the one we were driving around and we're like throwing around names. Yeah, we're trying to think of like concepts first before we thought of names, and we're both from really small towns where it's I haven't actually experienced this, but I know it's a thing to like bring your friend a casserole if they have a baby or something bad happens or they're sick or whatever. And that kind of felt like what we were doing. A good amount of our customers would be like, because we were doing all no contact, it was like height of the pandemic. Would be like, hey, I have COVID, so just leave it like on my porch. So we were literally bringing people like frozen mac and cheeses that were sick or that were staying home for an indefinite amount of time. It felt like a little for-profit Meals on Wheels. And then we I lived in Utah for a while, and Mormons call this cheesy potato casserole funeral potatoes.
Oh, wow.
Because you bring it to funerals, and it was just kind of like a joke, and then I was like, actually, that's got like a ring to it. Yeah, it's memorable.
What were some other names that were thrown around, if you remember?
Ooh, Dinner at the Grotto. Remember that one? Because Black Cat Kitchen and Dinner at the Grotto. So Dinner at the Grotto.
Like
I think that
1T.
was
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
We were originally going by both of our business names as
Okay.
a collaboration, and it was just impossible to describe like, oh, I am running a non-existent underground dining series out of my apartment, and Alexis used to have a catering company, and now we're selling casserole.
Yeah.
Like the elevator pitch was not sexy and not very coherent, so we realized we needed to rebrand.
And people
Sure.
were DMing Eve, like, or DMing me and being like, oh my God, I love Dinner at the Grotto. And I'm like, that's not me. That's her. That's,
Sure.
yeah.
People
So
would email me and think I own Black Cat Kitchen.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was
it's the whole thing.
too complicated.
But I think we also
Interesting.
were like semi-hesitant to changing the name at first, because I think we both thought like, we'll do this for a couple of months and then I want Black Cat Kitchen back and I want Dinner at the Grotto back, so I don't want to just like erase it. But now, for me at least, I think we're past that.
Yeah.
Which experiences have led you to take that fork in the road to be like, let's actually go all in together?
It is okay. So Eve, like when she was talking about not ever wanting to run her own business, she was really firm on that when we first started. She had told me multiple times she was not interested in like being a boss or running a business. And I had been doing Black Cat Kitchen for 2.5, 3 years. So I like had the license, had the commercial kitchen, and yeah, I was kind of doing a lot of the unsexy shit, and Eve brought a lot of creativity to the table and like expertise in her own food shit. But I think once we started working together for a while, I at least realized like, oh, this is easier. Like we're doing more work, but it's easier and nicer to have another person to split responsibilities with, to bounce ideas off of, and to get opinions from. And we both have a lot of valuable opinions that complement and contrast each other's like natural tendencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it just felt like the pieces fell into place in a way that I definitely wasn't anticipating, and it's like I don't ever want to go back to having to carry all this heavy shit by myself.
And I didn't want to go into business with you for so long, like even before the pandemic, we'd talked about it, because I was so worried that this would ruin our friendship.
Yeah, like moving in with your best friend.
You know, we're both very stubborn people and independent people, and we like doing things our own way, and I'd never wanted to co-own something with somebody, and it felt like an especially big risk to do it with somebody that I loved. And ultimately it's made us better friends.
Oh yeah, we're like family now. But we also like we very rarely hang out outside of work because we hang out so much during work. It's a little bit like a marriage.
I see her more than I see my partner by
my husband.
Long shot.
Yeah, but I wouldn't trade it. I think I like this form of our relationship better, and we make a lot more money together than we did separately.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So what's it been like, Eve, to be part of like ownership then, you know, but to be a boss essentially?
It's surprisingly good.
She's good at it.
What aspects were you like afraid of? Or didn't like?
I did not like the idea, and I still don't. I still struggle with this, giving direction while I'm cooking, like splitting my attention. I can't do it. I'm not good at it. So that made me wary, but I also didn't like the idea of having authority over somebody else and being in that position of, having to guide someone, teach someone, correct someone, or discipline someone, which we've thankfully never had to do. And,
not really.
It just grossed me out.
Even if you have that knowledge and the experience to share, you're just like imparting some wisdom on someone.
I've never been drawn to teaching. And I was also worried about, like what kind of staff are we going to have? Like what if Alexis likes working with this person and I don't, or, there was the anxiety cloud of what ifs.
Yeah.
And the two most surprising things about this are, one, we're better friends than we were when we started. And two, I love our staff. I still don't love being a boss, but I love our staff. I love working with them. I've worked through my own micromanaging tendencies quite a bit, and they're just, I look forward to seeing them every week, and I look forward to working with them every week.
I think the humility is like one aspect of being a good leader. It's like understanding
not thinking
that
you know
you're
everything.
not you're not like the know-all, and it's okay if you don't know everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from Alexis, because I feel like you're naturally a great leader, and you have wanted to own your own business and have owned your own business.
Oldest sister syndrome.
Yeah. Same, but I'm a little hermit. I like to do everything alone. So
it's definitely changes. Like, I totally understand those fears, because we have 3 people that work with us like regularly, who we would call like our core staff, and I genuinely really like all of them. But then being their boss, like, that's not an issue. Well, okay, they can't really be our best friends, like they are our friends, but there is a little bit of a level of separation that I think is really healthy, kind of similar to how our relationship changed. We are not going to be like seeing each other every single day outside of work and spending the night, because we're fulfilled, or we need to have a life outside of each other. I think it's similar with, like, maybe they don't want to be going out to dinner and partying and getting hammered in front of their bosses. I don't know that they care so much. They've come to like parties at your house, but yeah, I understand it is a weird position to be in, to be like, oh, I hired these 3 people that I'm love so much and would be their best friends, but also I'm their boss, so we have to have a little bit of separation.
It's a balance.
Yeah,
it's a balance. I think sometimes like time spent outside of work with your team allows them to see you in a different light, and vice versa. And in most instances, in my experience, it actually adds to how much they do end up caring about the work that they do.
Sure.
Which is another question. It's just like, how do you get someone to care and to buy into the process?
don't know.
Especially if you see them once a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much I care if they care.
Oh, okay.
Want them to care about doing their specific tasks well and like not sloppily and somewhat efficiently, but if they don't care about the total success of our business, it's not really their job to. It's more our job to do that.
If they
get paid no matter what.
So that's too high of an expectation.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of small businesses falter, actually, is expecting your staff to be buying into this dream when they're not getting the same level of recognition or glory or money. So why should they care as much as you do?
We don't pay them enough to care.
Like that.
Yeah. But I think they do care, and I can't speak for them, but I think that in general, something I've noticed about the enthusiasm that people have for funeral potatoes is that there's like an emotional factor that's beyond just the food. Like we try to make good food. We like cooking. We make things that we're proud of. Should we pause? Okay. But
that's just Cermak Road.
I know. Just the environment. But there's also that, going back to what Alexis was saying about people delivering meals to folks who are going through hard times or folks who are celebrating. We want to generate this like interpersonal thing that we haven't been able to have because of the pandemic. So we've been like kind of trying to fill in the gaps of building community when you can't really see people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people crave. I crave that, at least.
I think a lot of our staff also wants our success because they want to work for us full time, which is really nice. But that's like an extra bonus. It's not really necessary as long as they're doing their job. Yeah.
Can you speak about the core themes of each menu? And you both came from small towns?
Mm-hmm.
And if that is incorporated into these themes with each menu?
Big time, it is, for sure. We've had we haven't had a ton of like super dialed in themes lately. We've just kind of been doing whatever we want, but we've definitely had a lot of past themes that directly or indirectly relate to nostalgia. So we've had some like I recreated a vegetable soup that my grandma used to make. And yeah, a lot of I think we have really similar backgrounds where we kind of have what I would call like almond moms. Like both of our moms are not, they enjoy food, but they're like eating for sustenance more than they are for pleasure, which is not our experience with food. So growing up was a lot of like crock pot, and there was.
How big was the family? Was it a big family or?
Mine, I grew up in the same house with two of my siblings,
okay.
but I have 7 siblings, but they're kind of all spread out.
Oh, okay.
And my parents were both police officers, so they were working a lot. So a lot of like convenience meals and frozen pizza, and my mom would cook, but none of the women in my family are like nothing fancy. Just nothing fancy at all. A lot of like half frozen things. And I think a lot of our food reflects that. It's like a slightly nicer version of like mixing frozen broccoli into Kraft mac and cheese. But
it's a fun challenge to, I don't know, I feel like you see these like romanticized narratives of like the chef at a restaurant who has a grandmother in Italy and she's making this beautiful handmade pasta, and like he learned that from her and he's trying to recreate that feeling here or whatever. And it's such a fun challenge to do that with things that are not sexy. Like how do you do that with a tuna noodle casserole? How do you do that with funeral potatoes or mac
like
and cheese?
The ranch dressing from your neighborhood bar.
Yeah, exactly. Like dialing in on these underrated, under-celebrated things that have so much nostalgia and joy and are part of our identities and our roots and our history, and trying to make them deliver that to somebody else, but through the lens of our experience and what we know about cooking now.
Yeah. So without that formal training, like who have you looked up to besides moms? Is it YouTube University? Like who's kind of like cultivated your skills over the experiences?
For me, definitely mom's aunts, great grandmas. My great grandparents were sheep farmers, and my great grandma had 12 kids. They're like super Irish Catholic, so they also did daycare. They were my daycare when I was little, so it was a lot of like, they had a huge garden, so like vegetable soup that was super plain with like buttered saltines and German chocolate cake and stuff like that. My grandma was one of those grandmas who like didn't enjoy cooking and wasn't necessarily like a pro at it, but could like peel an apple with a paring knife in one spiral without looking at it, or while like holding a baby on, like just did it for 55 years. So a lot of that, the utility of cooking, I think I definitely was inspired by her. But otherwise, I've lived on my own since I was 17, and just a lot of cooking for myself, cooking for the people I live with.
I didn't get a chance to ask. How did Black Cat Catering come to be?
We were working for that small confectionery, and our boss also didn't have any formal training. I don't even know if she had a high school degree. I don't know. But I think seeing her do it, she was not a great boss, but seeing her do it functionally, I was like, oh, I think I can do this without having gone to culinary school. So I started doing it part-time, working at like farmers markets, selling sandwiches and stuff, and then struck out on my own, quit that job, and did Black Cat Kitchen full-time for 2 years before the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Wait,
Yeah.
what do you mean struck out at where?
I did farmers markets, and then I also did like large event catering.
Okay.
Yeah.
But where did you strike out? What do you mean?
Oh, just like I left. I was working, just doing my thing part-time and working a 9 to 5 full-time. So I just like struck out on my own and was like, I'm not going to have the safety net of working a full-time job.
Yeah. So you stepped out. So what? It was so good at the farmers markets that you're like, I'm all in on this?
Yeah, I had been doing farmers markets for that business, but yeah, between farmers markets and like catering clients, it was going well enough that I felt comfortable leaving my job.
Then that experience's carryovers obviously to this.
Yeah, definitely, especially in like the clerical sense. I think I'm bringing a lot of the like
the front end,
the logistics, of large format. Eve has done a lot of large format cooking. Also, she cooks at a summer camp every year. That's really special to her. But yeah, some really valuable experience.
How was the watch party at the Salt Shed?
For the draft?
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun. We sold out completely. It was me, Eve, and my little sister, who's been helping us a lot lately. Yeah.
How long was it?
Good.
And then what did you sell there, and how fast did it sell out?
We were there from like 3 to 8:30, I think.
Okay.
When we sold out right at the end, like literally to the last hot dog. We did hot dogs.
Okay.
We did like a vaguely Blackhawks themed menu.
They weren't doing it like. The draft wasn't there, was it?
No, it was
just
in Nashville.
It was a watch party. Okay.
Yeah, it was in Nashville, and they had a big screen projecting the stuff, and they had like a band, and I don't know.
What,
we're stuck in a little tent.
Open up doors for like future, like let's say specifically Salt Shed events, or?
Yeah, we did their concert series last year at the Salt Shed. That's how we got hooked up with them. Yeah, we did like 9 concerts last year.
We're doing more this year, so we love working with them. We're excited to go back.
Oh, amazing! I haven't been to the indoor part of it.
It's
just
cool.
It's really beautiful. They've done an awesome job with the building.
Great bathrooms.
Great bathrooms, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And so where else, like if not for the brick and mortar, what's the transition phase right now? What's it looking like?
Yeah, great question. Do you want to?
The transition phase. I think every year we're not focused so much on scaling and growth.
Is this your both for primary like sources of income as well?
Full-time job. Yeah. This is the longest.
At this point, do you feel like you've made it somewhat?
Oh yeah.
I can easily say that we self-employed for the last 3 years. We've made more money than we have at any other job.
And we've been, I don't know what your longest job is other than this, but this is the longest job I've ever had. Oh, wow. And this is the only time I've ever worked one job. And not supplemented income with other part-time jobs. So this is, this idea of success, it's not like, oh, we'll be successful when we open a restaurant, or, oh, we'll be successful when we sell out at the Blackhawks draft party or whatever. At least for me, it feels like success every day when I get to wake up and work for myself with my best friend with an awesome team and cook food that we're excited about for people that we like it's hard, and sometimes I don't want to do it, but it is it's like living the dream, but we just did this accidentally.
Living the dream. Yeah. It'll be nice someday to have like a savings account and health insurance. I have health insurance because my husband has a job.
I'm looking for. I don't have health insurance. So
Yeah.
I'm getting married in September and be like, I want that health insurance.
That's one of the main reasons we got married. Totally. Yeah, but as far as like a transition, every year since things started opening up, we've done more and more in-person events. So we're doing the Salt Shed again. We've done like Sauced Market, and I think that usually lends itself to more catering jobs. We now have a regular gig at St. Emmerich where we're doing like a networking dinner every month. We're doing there's this really cool company called Rough Magic that does like guided D&D games that we're going to be doing some themed menus for, which will be cool. So it feels like the more FaceTime we can get with people, it's like, A, really fulfills us to actually meet our customers, not just like be driving by, but B, it lends itself to opportunities that we never would have anticipated. And between that and the weekly, we're pretty busy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this feels pretty sustainable for us. But it would be nice we just want to like put down roots, have our own space that we're fully in charge of. And that's a little bit more of a hub. Right now we're very mobile, and shit lives in my van for a long time, tables and equipment and stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, that's kind of a write-off too, huh?
The van. Yeah. All $3,000 of it. Yeah.
Well, the gas and the insurance.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We got lots of write-offs.
So you guys are still operating out of is it a shared commercial kitchen? Mm-hmm. Can you share which one?
Yeah, it's called Envision Kitchen. It's in Logan.
Okay.
On like Spalding and Bloomingdale.
I've heard of like the hatchery.
Yeah,
okay.
This one's real small. I actually, way before food, I worked in social services. I was a training counselor at a center for adults with intellectual disabilities, doing like arts and humanities and also like direct support providing. And I left, I got super burnt out, huge compassion burnout, randomly applied for a job at a chocolate shop while I was on vacation.
Wow.
and got it. But like a year later, the director of that saw that I was running my own business and was like, hey, we're turning our cafeteria into a commercial kitchen. If you're ever interested. And then like 2 years later, I was very interested and we work there now. So it's like a really weird full circle moment, because the whole building is used for daily programming for adults with disabilities. So I am seeing clients that I worked with for like 3 or 4 years on a weekly basis now. Like it's really amazing.
Years and years ago.
Yeah, it's great.
Kind of a slightly different perspective now. Huh?
Very different perspective, much less responsibility. Yeah, it's great. I love our kitchen. We also have the most amazing kitchen manager, and it's not very crowded. Like for the first 9 or 10 months of the pandemic, we were the only ones using it.
So if you were to give advice for maybe a group of people looking for shared commercial space, what are like maybe the top 3 or top 5 things that you guys would look for?
Okay, for me personally, meet your kitchen manager or whoever you're going to have a daily relationship with, because ours is Jason Whitner. He's kind of like a den father. Like he solves so many problems for us that if he was an asshole, he would probably expect for us to solve ourselves, and he takes care of it because he's a nice guy and because we are very respectful of their space. But if you have a really bad relationship with your kitchen manager, or you just don't like them, you're going to dread going to work every day or having to tell them like, hey, I overflowed the sink again, having a nice person in charge of that stuff is really great. What else would you say?
It was appealing to have access to the amount of equipment that we have, labeling your stuff so that other people don't take it, because everybody's buying all their shit from Restaurant Depot and it all looks the same.
It's not locked. It's open. Everything's open.
We have a cage that locks that we rent.
But the fridges are shared.
Fridges are
so like
shared.
we have one shelf in the fridge. Yeah. Stuff
And
like
before we had, like when we were trying to figure out our footing there was a lot of like, oh no, we've stolen everybody's spoons. Like,
we steal shit all the time on accident. We also have like especially in the beginning, we had like a rotating staff. So if somebody like leaves all of their silverware out on the drying rack and our staff puts it in our cage without us noticing, it's going to be locked in our cage for a week before we notice, you know?
Yeah.
Label your stuff. Just be a really conscientious neighbor. Clean up after yourself because you're going to be so pissed when you find a mess that somebody else didn't clean up when you're at the end of your shift. So just be like a good neighbor. Yeah. Be nice. Don't stand in the middle of where people are working. Don't try to have conversations with people while they're clearly like in the heat of it.
Sure.
Just try to be real conscious of the fact
of your surroundings.
Okay.
Yeah, and the fact that like if you're just like casually chatting because you're there to drop somebody off, the other person's paying $24 an hour to be there. So just, you know, treat it seriously.
Have you guys met interesting individuals and businesses through this shared trip?
Oh, yeah. Millie's Pizza in the Pan used to be our kitchen mate.
Yeah.
Robert, he's awesome.
It's pretty inspiring to see other people making, huh?
Best deep dish in Chicago, I would say.
Absolutely.
I haven't tried it.
Easily.
I keep
So good.
hearing
Really
that,
good.
though. Yeah.
And I don't even like deep dishes. So good. But he was a fun person to work with. Who else have we worked with?
There's we barely ever run into them. I think we must have opposite schedules, but there's a really cool small cannelé place called We Cannelés, and it's
What's a cannelé?
it's a French pastry. It's like a little cake thing. They're kind of complicated to make. You have to use like beeswax to line the pans or whatever, but there's a French woman who runs it with her husband and her mom, and they're so pleasant, and their cannelés are great. Yeah. That's all I can think of right now that I feel like.
We try not to schedule time with anybody else because it's nice
it's
to take
too
up all
much.
the tables.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And to not this is fine. We used to we used to cook with we used to have neighbors that were a vegan restaurant who wouldn't let anybody that wasn't cooking vegan food wash their dishes in the same sink. Like, that's real inconvenient. Yeah.
And yeah, in general, just having to do the dance around the dish pit with people
Yeah.
having to do different.
I understand. So then, so without putting a timeline on the brick and mortar, I'm sure you've envisioned what type of experiences you want to cultivate for people that come through those doors. Can you share some of those goals?
Yeah, I think this through line between what we're doing now and what we've done before and what we want to do in the future is, there are all of these experiences that are tied to a lifestyle that a lot of oppressed people didn't get to enjoy, like the idea of a family dinner with people that accept you and love you, or the idea of, going out and foraging, or going out and, enjoying wild game that's native to the area, or like all of these like very traditional, nostalgic Midwestern things that I think for a lot of people are associated with this like glamorized American dream that you're not allowed to be a part of. I think we have been trying to make our version of that is accessible and satisfying and delightful and nourishing, that makes the weird kids feel like they're at home and like they're getting this thing that they deserve to have. Everyone deserves to have that experience of being cared for and indulging in something wonderful and delicious exactly as you are. And it would be so nice to have an environment where we could do that with our community and not just have to, drop food off at doors and never see anybody.
Wow. That's
for sure.
Huge, yeah.
Also, we both live in the Logan Square area, and it's, trendy, and there are a lot of places where I don't eat at a lot of, like, I've never been to a Michelin starred restaurant. Maybe I have. I don't know. I'm not huge into dining culture. I love good food and especially like hole in the wall kind of places, but I don't eat at a lot of like $5 sign, $4 sign places. And there are some places that I go in Logan Square where I've lived for a long time where I'm like, I feel like I'm being judged for like not wearing makeup or like having nice clothes on. I feel like not cool enough to be in some of those spaces, and I feel like they're a little cold and sterile, and
like you feel pressure to like it just because you're of the environment that you're in.
a little. Or I feel like if I ask for like caramel syrup in my coffee, they're gonna be like, what the fuck, like this is the kind of coffee you drink black, you know. I'm excited to have a place, like in a dream world, we'd love to have like a coffee program where we make our own fancy coffee creamers and stuff like that. But I just want to be a place where everyone is genuinely pretty friendly to you. It feels like you're welcome there, not like you're getting the privilege of eating our food. But, you know, that's the kind of environments I enjoy going to. That's like the huge appeal of like Golden Apple, Golden Nugget, like places like that. Like growing up, we had a Swedish pancake house where the waitresses like all called you hun and sweetie, and I want to recreate that kind of a place instead of like stark. I'm trying not to say specifically offensive things. Like
you're doing a great job
to identify specific baristas that I feel personally targeted by in Logan Square. But yeah, I just don't want anyone to walk in and feel like, oh no, I'm not cool enough to be here. Like, we're not that cool. We're pretty nice. Just want everyone to walk into our space and feel very welcome, and like they're allowed to touch things, and it's not precious, and it's not austere and sacred. It's like
kind of like a home.
Yeah, it's a home. It's grandmotherly.
Yeah.
Everything feels allowed.
We want it feels like there has been this it's become very popular to have cafes be like workspaces where you are isolated in your own little bubble, in your own little world, and you're there to be a tech bro. Or
how do you fight that? Because even if with a communal table, people are still in their little bubble.
We want the aesthetic.
Everyone has to sit on a beanbag
and talk about your feelings.
Leave the phones at the door.
Yeah, no Wi-Fi. No, we will have Wi-Fi. I feel like the aesthetics of cafes have played into that. At least in our neighborhood, a lot of places have like the uncomfortable seating to try to get you to leave faster, or like these bare corporate design elements. We want something that's loud and cozy and like maximalist and kitschy and comfy couches. We want something that's not encouraging you to be this like little capitalist minion. We want you to be
a little bit of a capitalist minion,
just enough to keep us in business.
But there's a coffee shop. I think Lincoln Park, right off Halstead, maybe Halstead and Fullerton. It's a house, and it's like multi-leveled.
I want to go.
And you can just like find your nook. So it's not as communal. I'm sure the first floor by the cafe is like communal, but you can like find a cozy corner, and like none of the furniture matches, but it's all comfy.
Love that.
And
that sounds like our kind of place.
You have to DM us the name after this.
I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
Damn.
And I don't. Communal's great if it's what you want, but I don't always want communal. I just want. I just want to feel like people, kind of honestly, like the experience that I've had at farmers markets for the most part. I've been running booths at farmers markets for the last almost 6 years, and it's like, it feels like a little community. Everyone, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go to that booth because I know that person is going to want to talk for 45 minutes, and that's not the mood I'm in. And sometimes it is the mood you're in. Like, but either way, wherever you go, you're selling directly from like the person that slaughtered the pig is selling you the meat, so they're so obviously appreciative for the purchase that you're making, and you're appreciative for the product that it's like a really nice, close, intimate feeling transaction, as opposed to
how do we relay that
to
the consumer? So like, were you literal when you said you wanted people to experience like foraging and things like that? Like, are you going to try to cultivate like experiences for
No, we're not
like, how do we help people gain an appreciation for how much went into this?
I think it's like looking at my documentary background, I've been thinking about this a lot as we've been like trying to do more social media. I think, everything has a narrative and everything has a story, and we have to create content. So it's nice to, it's a nice practice, I think, to be intentional about trying to identify the stories behind dishes or choices or experiences or things that we've done, and using that as a tool to connect with people, because everybody loves a good story. We try to tell stories well and not inaccessibly. It's not like we're making this fancy thing that's reminiscent of like the Grecian coast or something. It's, like, oh, I had a birthday party when I was 5 and my mom bought this thing from Kroger and I really want to try to remake it. And like, everybody
Totally.
has something like that.
A little personal touch,
Yeah.
a little conversation also, not feeling like place your order, get the F out of here. But like, yeah, oh my God, cool. So glad you ordered that thing. Just so you know, my mom shot the deer that you're about to eat. Or
Exactly,
whatever.
exactly.
But not that, because that's illegal.
Yeah, we would never do that.
Yeah.
Are there some people within the industry that you do look up to, that you kind of like try to take aspects of and model after?
Totally.
Yeah.
Who? Yeah, definitely. Oh, I love Nemanja. Nemanja.
From where? I don't know her. Or
He works at ABBA now, but he used to own a Serbian? Is it Serbian? Okay. A place called Kiosk. It was like a Balkan street food place in a ghost kitchen in the Avondale area. And he's like a tall, broad-shouldered, handsome Serbian man, and then just like the sweetest, least toxic, most supportive. It's just not like I don't know. I think we've experienced a decent enough amount of our male peers not necessarily taking us seriously because we didn't go to culinary school. We're not trying to run a Michelin-starred restaurant, and I wear like a apron from Target that's got a big burn hole in the front at work. We're not wearing like white chef's coats when we're cooking and stuff like that. Nemanja, ever since we met him, you introduced me to him, it's just been like he's just like so excited about everything we do, and he's an amazing cook. So having someone that I'm like, oh, you make this like bread and food that I feel like I could never make, care about our stuff, is like, that's who I would like to be for other people someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Vargo Brother.
Oh yeah,
one of our
Sebastian
first,
and Taylor from Vargo Brother.
One of our first like friends and collaborators when we started this. Vargo Brother Ferments. They do the most incredible ferments. They are also a pandemic pivot. They also sell things online for delivery. They're in a bunch of markets now. Their product is incredible. The cooking itself is really aspirational, but they are the kind of business owners that we are trying to be. Like operating.
I want them to be our best friends.
Yeah,
yeah. They're
I want to
so
hang
nice
out with them
and
all the
cool.
time. They're so thoughtful and kind and deliberate about what they do, and aware of their positioning in the world. And we have a decent amount of like underground dining history, and it's really cool to see other people with similar alternative business models succeeding and doing really cool stuff.
Yeah. Have you guys seen The Bear?
No.
No? Okay. Well, they tried to give an accurate portrayal of fine dining, and one of the characters, like, spoiler alert for anyone listening, but one of the characters has a coming of age kind of arc, and it shows through the way he dresses and how he speaks, and that's just one way to carry yourself. And I just thought of this when you said things like, we don't wear white chef coats. How are other ways to show or demonstrate or exemplify how you carry yourself? Because I feel that you carry yourselves well, right? But maybe it's not in the traditional sense of a typical chef.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, really good question. Like more external ways.
Well, it starts with you, right? It starts internally.
Yeah.
And then if it comes out in some type of way, how have you noticed it come out?
Well, we both, I don't know, there's such a chef to like celebrity chef pipeline kind of culture, like at least with some of the chefs I've known and are related to, there's a real emphasis on like the material. Even if you're not that financially successful, wearing a white chef's coat and having people call you chef in the kitchen feels a little self-important. Our staff doesn't call us chef. We just dress normally, like normal people, just wear what we want to wear. But we also just generally have a pretty low importance and priority on like material things. We drive a shitty van. I drive a shitty van.
I guess I think of the quote, like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so the title of that episode is called Forks. And he learns to care about making every fork like perfect.
Maybe we should care more.
And that, and that just translates into like everything kind of becomes perfect because you cared so much about this one little detail.
Well, I think
we're the opposite, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, I genuinely, in like a very morally neutral way, do not care about chef culture. I don't care about it. I mean, there are things that are like obvious flaws with the general culture that need to be addressed and worked on to make the industry better moving forward. But I care about as much, I care about looking and acting like a standard chef and like this idea of what one is about as much as I care about being a football player. I don't care. I like what we do. I think what we do is really cool and exciting, and it's something that I would, order from if I didn't,
wasn't better at deadlines.
If I was better at deadlines, I would care more about, placing pre-orders for things. But this feels like an authentic version of who we are and what we want to do that's not influenced tremendously by what we're not and what we need to do to assimilate and feel like the best, I guess what I'm getting at is like my identity isn't tied to this anymore. I've tried to tie my identity to my work before, and that led to burnout, and that led to depression and feeling like, oh, if I'm not, doing this level of work to try to get to this title and get to this accolade or to get to this award or whatever, then I'm not a success. And to let go of that and realize that this is a success just because it exists is refreshing. And I don't think that would have happened if we hadn't done this accidentally with like no goals.
We're the opposite. I really think we're the opposite of the forks thing. Like we fuck up constantly. We are off like getting to the kitchen and being like, shit, I didn't buy the cheese for the mac and cheese or whatever. We're constantly messing up. Our staff is constantly messing up because we're very human and we're doing a relatively hard job. And we, from day one, made a very conscious choice with each other and with our staff to just give a lot of grace. Like, okay, you forgot to put all of the croutons in all of the salads that are already crimped close. Not a big deal. Let's all deal with it together.
How much grace do you show for mistakes or, the same mistakes being made?
They don't, a lot of grace.
Right? Like I'm all for failure, right?
Yeah.
But like after a certain point, it's just like, why are we making the same mistakes
over
and over?
Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't become a huge issue.
Okay.
You have accidentally embezzled money from us multiple times.
I have. This is why. This is why I didn't want to be a business now.
And you didn't even know it.
I'm objectively our worst employee. I don't know how I haven't been fired yet.
I noticed all of the, is it okay if I talk about this?
Of course.
The Amazon thing?
Yeah. Oh no. Oh my God. Yeah, no,
it's pretty mild.
Compared to everything else I've done.
We share it. We have a credit card that we each have a copy of for making business purchases. And I was looking at the things and was like, Eve, it says that your specific credit card number has made all of these Amazon transactions. What were they for? And she was like, those don't match any of my transactions on Amazon. I think our card number got stolen. So I spent a long ass time on the phone with Amazon trying to figure out what items were ordered. And it was like hermit crab substrate, sand, a hermit crab aquarium. It's like, oh, Eve has a hermit crab. She accidentally was, her card got canceled, so it was just using the next card on her Amazon for like 2 months without either of us noticing. So it was like $400 that you accidentally embezzled.
It was over $400, and the reason I didn't identify it was because I was looking at the prices before taxes. And man,
it happens.
It happens.
It happens. Totally.
It really does happen a lot.
So we haven't encountered a lot of mistakes that are just like straight negligence from our staff, especially. Like if we were getting a lot of mistakes that were like, you obviously just don't care. You're not putting care into your work, and that's why these mistakes are happening. Then that would be something we had to address. But they're just like, oh yeah, you fucked that thing up. I fucked that thing up last week. So like, I can't really be mad at you. We'll figure out a way to fix it. But either way, it's food. If I forgot to put Swiss cheese in the strata. People will be fine. They'll deal with it, or we'll put it on top instead of inside. I think us cultivating that level of grace also makes it so that our customers give us a lot of grace when we fuck things up, and we treat everyone like humans instead of like a weird little food machine that's expected to be perfectly consistent and on point all the time.
I think you can tell. You can tell when somebody's enjoyed cooking the food that you're eating. Like there's a level of.
I probably missed that too by not being able to see that.
Yeah, and I would rather. I feel like we have this standard of like good enough is good enough, and our standard for good enough is higher because we're charging for this food, and it's a luxury service essentially, but we're not going to make you, what's that TikTok where the girl is like picking all of the pith and the fibers off the clementine at the Michelin-starred restaurant.
All she does all day.
Yeah. We're never going to make anybody do that.
No.
If we want to do that, we'll do it ourselves. But like
we never want to do that. Yeah. And we're also just like really last Thanksgiving we did pies, and we had a pie that like collapsed in on itself. Like the layer of ganache just wasn't quite thick enough to hold the filling in, and somebody sent us I don't even care about putting this person on blast. They sent us an email that was just a picture of the collapsed pie, and it said this pie was a disaster. And that was it. They weren't like, can I get a refund? Can you give me a new pie? And it's like, we are so understanding. If someone even a little bit doesn't like something, we're like, oh my God, so sorry. Let's get you a replacement. Let's get you a refund. Let's send you a discount code for the next one. Like, we know that we fuck up. So we are humble enough to be like, yeah, we fucked up. Let's fix that. For the most part, our customers are so amazing about that. They're like, no big deal. I know you've got a lot of shit, but hey, you left my delivery out in the rain or whatever. Like, yeah, I think us being understanding with people, I don't really believe in karma, but maybe has earned us some cosmic, like, people will be understanding with us.
There's a level of forgiveness that can only happen, I think, when you see somebody as human and that they're trying, and this isn't, this applies to dining environments too, especially like your waiter is not your servant. Your waiter is a human who's doing their best under trying circumstances and probably not a lot of money, and having grace is going to make everybody's experience better.
Yeah.
So although existing is good enough, is there a part of you and the team that strives for excellence, and what is the definition of excellence for you all?
I think we strive for putting out products that we are proud of, which aren't always excellent. Sometimes they're like, oh, I wish that this small component had come out a little bit better, but I ate this and I think it's delicious. So, yeah.
So continuing to impress yourself.
Yeah. For me, it's good enough to be making food that I would pay for, or that I would be really happy to receive. For me, that's good enough. My own standard, or our own standard.
Yeah, I think
I'm not really striving for excellence, just like
for
no one to regret their purchase from us also. I think that's my biggest, I hate the thought that somebody spent money on something and then was like disappointed in it, which is another reason why we work so hard to make up for it if we
It still seems like a
up.
high bar, but then when you say it, it doesn't seem like a high bar. But I know how much effort goes into that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. In your perspective, is that a high bar? Of like not having someone regret what they just ate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially when we're charging as much as we charge. Like it's I couldn't afford to order from us every single week. So the people that are putting their hard-earned money towards buying something from us, I care that they're happy with their purchase.
they deserve, they're good, they're good people who deserve good food.
Yeah.
And that is, speaking to this burnout idea again, I feel like that is a good, there's some priorities that are like non-negotiables for me, like, and I think for both of us, making food that is good enough for people to feel good about spending money on it, treating our staff equitably, and being positive members of the community. Those are non-negotiables. Everything else is, at least for me, it varies depending on my energy level, on our creative, inspiration, on how many other things that we have to do at that time. I know I'm my worst critic. So my standard of, is it good enough is like, am I happy with this? Because if I'm happy with it, I know it's going to be at least like 15% better than I think it is, because I am,
just the worst critic. You're
Yeah.
the harshest critic.
Yeah.
There are plenty of dishes that we put out that I'm like, oh God, I'm just waiting for the emails to roll in about how that strata was dry. And then we never hear anything because nobody else notices.
And,
People generally like it. Yeah.
And we put out so many menus. And I think this is something that we really want to do when we have a brick and mortar, is have set menu items that we can really dial in on and have them be fantastic. Because we do a different menu every week. So there are some dishes that we bring back and we can keep refining over and over. And then there's some dishes that are like, we're just really excited by this produce we found at the farmer's market. And
try something new.
Yeah, we're going to be a little experimental, and that doesn't always work. But if it's good enough for us, I think it lands well with people.
So speak a little bit on the process of where you obtain, at this point, you've been doing it for so long, like where you start or where you continue to find inspiration, whether it's a stroll through a farmer's market, right?
Pinterest, stroll through Pinterest. Yeah, definitely farmers markets and just like, oh, I can't wait for tomatoes to come back so we can do that one dish that was only really good when there's good tomatoes. For me, definitely just like other people's food that we're eating someone's whatever fried chicken sandwich and being like, oh, hell yeah, I never thought about putting that thing into a mayonnaise and making a mayonnaise out of it. I want to do my own thing with that. Yeah. Also, just like we both really love grocery stores. Like, I know for both of us, actually, Eve goes to Dublin every year and then brings home a suitcase of like cabbages and vegetables, which is a little extreme even for me. But like, when my husband and I go on vacation, I always want to I'm like doing a lot of Yelping about local grocery stores and then finding a random ingredient that you didn't know existed, and then finding a way to make something cool out of it is something I love about traveling, about exploring new places, and about cooking, for sure. And then you end up with a pantry full of like half-used things that you're like, great, that was not as delicious as I thought it was going to be, and now I'm never going to use it again. But yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about the willingness to experiment.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're creatures of habit, right? So like we kind of tend to make the same things over and over again. So it's that willingness that's important. Post-pandemic, as restaurants started to reopen, they found it hard to get new hires, and maybe the power has shifted to the hands of people looking for jobs as far as like the culture and how much they make. And maybe that had something to do with why it's so short. Can you guys speak on like what you feel like the current climate is on the culture within hospitality, if it's gotten better post-pandemic, and what the room for improvement is?
You probably have more thoughts. I can mostly speak as an outside observer and as a person who has a lot of most of our staff also works in the service industry outside of our business. So hearing a lot of firsthand stories, but I've never worked in like a formal fine dining restaurant. So I don't know how much I can speak to it from a place of knowledge.
I think it's a balance between establishing boundaries for yourself, but then what I'm hearing from the other side is like, this generation is just super entitled.
Yeah, I think that's wrong.
I think it's bullshit. Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I have actually heard from a couple other like business owners about how hard it is to like find and keep good staff, and the number one rebuttal I have to that is like, oh, how much are you paying? Because we don't have that problem. We haven't had a problem maintaining staff, and we are fully part-time. Like, if there were ever to be a job where it was super high turnover, it would be working for us. And we do not have super high turnover. We pay $20 an hour for our kitchen staff and $28 an hour for our delivery staff. And periodically we are like, hey, is that still working for you?
Yeah.
Does that still feel fair for the amount of work that you're doing? Like, it's a really open conversation where we just talk to our staff about what they need.
Well, first of all, I don't know if bigger establishments have these open conversations either.
Not in my experience.
So I wonder
Yeah.
I wonder how, if it's, and you guys probably won't change with you guys, but like when you scale to a brick and mortar, if it becomes difficult
to offer that much, or to have those
offer that
conversations.
much, but you'll probably have more people on your team too, right? So
Yeah.
more moving parts, more overhead. Just curious if you guys will experience that hurdle.
Maybe. But as somebody who's had a decent amount of shitty bosses and really strives to learn from their mistakes, if you can't afford to pay your staff a certain amount, you either have to take on more work yourself so that you're hiring for them for less time, or you can't afford to run a business where you employ other people. I think staff wages are just as important as food costs. It's like, if you can't afford to buy ingredients for the food that you're selling, then you can't really afford to run a food-based business. I think the same about paying your staff like a wage that actually makes it worth their time to show up to work.
Yeah, we're paying them $20 an hour. We expect $20 worth of work per hour. We're not,
which is not perfection and peeling little pits off of oranges.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And if we wanted that, we would have to pay them more. We do want to be able to. I mean, one of the big reasons, one of the motivators for opening a brick and mortar is we want to be able to offer benefits. We want to be able to work with these people full time. They're all incredible chefs. They're, Teresa and Tamar make bread better than either of us do.
Teresa has much more restaurant experience.
Teresa
than
has
either of
the
us,
most fine dining experience of all of us, and April is, she makes these beautiful cakes just for fun, and like everybody
fixes all our math.
And she fixes all our math, and like, they're all bringing so much to the table. It would only benefit us if we were able to take more advantage of the things that they can contribute, but that means paying them more,
Yeah.
What other aspects of the industry would you try, what that you are striving to change besides just income?
Accessibility. This doesn't happen as much anymore, and I think it's another reason why we would love to have a brick and mortar. But when we started, we had because our payment system was so loosey-goosey, we could be a lot more generous with like paying what you can. So we had a decent amount of people that took advantage of our pay what you can and would just send literally what they could afford instead of the full amount, and that was fine, or sometimes couldn't afford anything, and that was fine too.
So you that was as funeral potatoes in the beginning? Oh, I heard that was how it was.
Yeah, and technically it still is,
yeah.
but it's now that we have a much more formal system, it's just, I think, gotten harder for us to advertise that and harder for people to take advantage of it. And I honestly don't think we come into contact with the people that would want to utilize or that need to utilize that as much as we would like to.
Yeah, but also I think, there are so many like calls to action or people reaching out we'll see people on social media sometimes. Like I saw somebody this week who had some health issues and wanted was asking for food. And I feel like it's easier sometimes to float something out into the ether and see what comes back than reaching out directly to a business and say, hey, can I have something for free? I agree. I think that would be something that we'd like to integrate more into a brick and mortar structure.
It would be easier in person. Also, right now our flexibility with how much food we actually have, like once we're done cooking for the week, so we don't necessarily always have leftovers. It would be nice to be able to feed people that just walk in. We don't quite have that access.
Yeah, I still
right
see
now.
a lot of migrants in the police stations and in front of the police stations.
For
and
sure.
from time to time, people are dropping lots of food and other necessities off as well.
We used to be regulars at the Love Fridges, but there's like almost none left in our area anymore.
Oh, okay. Can you guys speak about how accessible safe spaces are for the LGBTQ community and what you guys are trying to strive for?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to cough. Oh my God. The allergies right now have been terrible. I don't think that there are any safe spaces for the LGBTQ community, in that you're not guaranteed safety anywhere. Nobody's guaranteed safety anywhere. But what we try to provide for our all queer staff is a place where where we try to actively not do the things that are considered normal and acceptable in other environments that are just inherently transphobic or homophobic, or if you are going to hire people who are part of a marginalized identity, it's your responsibility to do the work to treat them fairly, I think. It's not
are there some examples of maybe unintentionally treating them unfairly, if we were to give them the benefit of the doubt? But maybe it was unfair.
I think it's we don't have the best education in this country, and there isn't a whole lot of external factors. There aren't a lot of external factors that are encouraging people to take on the self-education necessary to have the compassion that you need to treat everybody the way they need to be treated, or the communication skills to ask people how they want to be treated. And
what at dinner at the grotto, like everyone had pronouns.
There was that. But at least for me, I think being genuinely comfortable with being uncomfortable and knowing that I'm not trying to treat people this way so that it reflects positively on me. I'm not trying to be perfect and overthink the way that I interact with other people and be protected and guarded. I need to be okay with the fact that I might fuck up, and if I do, I need to take accountability for that, and that's something that we're not necessarily encouraged to do in this country. So it's good to keep it on your mind, I think.
I think also the restaurant industry is not one, like, especially working back of house, is like your individuality as a person is not really a factor. It doesn't matter. It matters that you're doing your tasks perfectly, and that's about it. And it's not that it's just an added bonus for us. Like, also, we don't have a problem hiring straight people. Obviously we would hire anybody, but your individuality in our kitchen is like celebrated. We like it. We like that people are their own kind of person and that they're different. And we care about learning about our staff, but also just don't care. We are not interested in like tamping down their individuality to be to fit our image. Yeah.
I think there's
we won't make them all wear little berets and
we don't. at least in my mind, you know, when I think about like my ideal kitchen environment, it's not the hierarchy of like a classical, you know, fine dining restaurant. It's sitting on the back porch with my mom and sister and like a couple other people from the neighborhood and my dad, and we're like shucking corn into a bucket, you know, and like sharing stories, and that is more romanticized than what running a business actually is, but that feels more like the vibe in our kitchen than having everybody you know, release themselves of their identity and just become this like focused efficiency, you know, machine that is, that's one of the reasons I never wanted to be a chef.
So don't leave your problems at the door.
Yeah. Kitchen time is therapy time.
Yeah.
Ooh, kitchen time, we're all like
I like
standing around one table bitching about roommates or husbands or partners or whatever. Yeah, it's like hangout time while you're doing a job.
I appreciate
For
that.
sure. Yeah. For us now.
Yeah.
We'll see if we have like an open kitchen. We'll probably not talk about a lot of the things that we currently talk about.
With this brick and mortar, is there anything that you would like to manifest out there? Are there any like things that are top of mind right now that you, if someone was listening, might chime in and give some advice for?
Yeah. Well,
like when you have the time to think about this brick and mortar, what are some things that you're facing?
all of the things.
All of them.
Start at letter A and keep going. Yeah, we have a decent amount of friends and peers that have their own spaces. So I think we get a lot of advice, maybe too much advice, conflicting advice.
At some point you just
not
gotta do?
helpful advice.
Okay.
Yeah. But I like hearing what people want, not necessarily like what our customers want. I like hearing, oh, you live in Logan. What do you want? What do you wish Logan had? Not necessarily that we'll do it, because like we used to do this survey periodically where we'd send it out to all of our customers and be like, what foods do you want to see on the menu? And people would be like, dim sum. And we'd be like, no, go to a dim sum place. It will be better and cheaper and better than what, yeah. So we'll hear all the opinions, but we probably won't do 99% of them. But I like to know, what do people want? That we've talked a lot about our vision, but also if we don't have customers, it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. So I'm always down to hearing what, especially people that have followed us for a long time or maybe haven't ordered, what's keeping you? What do you wish we were doing differently? What do you, if you're going to come be one of our customers, what do you hope we have? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily want business advice from anybody right now.
I know.
We're good on that.
We're a little overwhelmed. I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll have questions as they come up. I think it's one of the things that we are talking about right now is focusing at, like, as we transition to more in-person events and dining and stuff like that, trying to figure out how to manage any kind of homophobia, transphobia, things that might be directed at, racism, things that might be directed at our team as we have more in-person encounters. And that's not something that we can just, that's not something I feel comfortable just winging it, So we've been talking with a DEI consultant about what, the best practices are for that. We've got a phone call scheduled with her soon.
As far as like dealing it with, like how to talk to your team about it, or how to deal with like outside, like the public about it.
How to appropriately handle a situation that might put our team in danger or at least make them feel disrespected. Because we don't have that kind of experience, and we want to be able to handle that appropriately.
Yeah without them just shutting down.
So you want advice? You want people to give us advice about that?
Yeah.
I don't want people's advice about that necessarily. I'd like to talk to one professional about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't want
Just like, why is it so hard to like treat people like human beings?
I mean, like I know a lot of people have had, a lot of my friends have had racist or transphobic or homophobic or, you know, hateful experiences in their jobs and have not felt like those things were properly handled by management.
We both have.
And we
absolutely.
both have. Oh,
yeah.
So I know what these issues are, but there isn't a blueprint that I'm aware of for how to, like, the best practices in handling that. And it would be nice to have that knowledge, or at least some knowledge, going into this so that we can avoid making mistakes that could be more damaging than, you know, burning a pot of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
That's important.
Think a lot of the like resources for business owners are really geared towards like how to make your staff feel comfortable, how to use like inclusive language when talking to your staff. But there's less of a blueprint. We've had some minor occurrences where an outside person interacts with our staff in a negative way. They have a really negative feeling about how that interaction went down. And we support the best we can in the moment. And then afterwards are like, hey, upon reflection, what do you want us to do better? What do you need from us in that moment? And very reasonably, a lot of times they're like, I don't know. I can't give you a how-to of how to best support me. So yeah, maybe it would be helpful to hear from people who have had that direct experience and what they wish their boss would have done differently. Because it's also not our staff's responsibility to teach us how to be good bosses. Yeah. But we're doing our best.
You don't hear that too. I don't know how often other bosses are looking out for that. That's cool.
Yeah, we like them as people, so that helps a lot. Yeah. We want them to have like relatively good lives.
Is there anything that you guys would like to share that we haven't gone over yet?
We do have a GoFundMe right now. Part of one of the things that we really love about our alternative business method is the accessibility. Like, neither of us come from a lot of money. We're not, we don't have the ability to privately fund the expense of opening a brick and mortar in the city of Chicago. It's not accessible to the average person. And we've had so much community support that we also are like, amazing. You all are constantly talking about how you wish we'd open a brick and mortar. You want to help us with that? You want to throw us $5-10? So we do have a GoFundMe for anybody that loves our story, loves our mission, or wants to be able to come sit in our cafe someday. You can check it out in the link in our Instagram bio. And
we're trying to make this fundraising process be engaging and exciting for people. So we're offering monthly incentives if we hit our monthly goals. So things like, I think in November we'll be offering like a free pie or something for the randomly selected person who's donated that month if we hit our goal. So we're trying to make it be something that's engaging in the process in and of itself, and not just like, oh, we're trying to, make this money and then you can be excited about what we're doing.
Right.
We're also interested in people, like, don't give us your advice, but let us know what cool markets are happening. It's really hard, especially when I was doing markets full time, to like hear about opportunities. Sometimes you hear about them, like the application process starts like 4 months beforehand. And if you don't have a great in with whoever's managing the market, you may never hear about it. So if you know anyone that's looking for a cool food vendor for their concert series or something,
we're on a real hot dog kick right now.
Yeah, especially if you want hot dogs, because we're real into hot dogs right now.
Do you guys know David Moore?
No.
Okay, I'll connect you guys.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a hot dog guy?
No, he's he's a beverage guy.
Okay,
cool.
great.
That's so funny. Where can people find you guys if you want to be? Is the restaurant going to be called Funeral Potatoes?
Probably.
Yeah,
it feels right.
Yeah. We've built up some brand recognition, and we're not good at thinking of names. So
yeah, DM us with your name suggestions.
So on social media or wherever, where can people find you guys if you want to be found individually and collectively?
We are at funeral.potatoes on Instagram. That's primarily where all of our stuff lives. What's our new website?
Funeral-potatoes.com.
Yeah.
That's got a link to order. It's got our catering menu if you ever want to order catering from us. It's got everything. You can email us from there.
GoFundMe is there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We try to keep it simple.
And we paid a lot of money for it. So please go to
visit
our
website. They did a good job.
They did a
It's really
good job.
pretty.
Yeah.
Well, friends, it was a pleasure having you guys on.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you so
having
much
us.
for having us.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.